what is your first name? And now we're going to scanf versus printf. We're going to scan the console for the user input. And we still have to use the signifier. We put it in quotes now in scanf. We say, hey, you're expecting a string, %s, and you're going to store that string in a variable called name. Now we'll spit back to the user here. Well, I guess spit's probably not the right word, but we'll echo back to the user here. Your name is, same thing as before. We'll use the %s signifier, comma, and the variable name, which will be substituted for the %s when the string outputs. We'll do our get chars. Okay, let me correct the one typo that I see here, and then we'll be ready to go ahead and compile and run. So what is your first name? My first name is Mark. Your name is Mark. I want to take a moment and go back and look at the first program we wrote here in this series, where we said char star username equals Mark. And I said that this star indicates that the username variable is a pointer, meaning that it's pointing to the location in memory where the string begins. And again, what we have here in the second example is a variable called name, which occupies 10 subsequent addresses in memory and is labeled name. But here we simply point to the first place, and here we're not using a pointer, but we are using an array of values to make up the variable name. Now, another way we could have done this is to take the username variable, identify it having a length of 5, and then identify each individual unit that's going to be stored in the variable. Having trouble typing today. And then, of course, the last slot is the string terminator, or the null sign. So now we've created a username variable that is 5 chars long, or is stored in 5 subsequent char memory locations. And then we print out the value username based on that. So let's go ahead and compile and run this version. And there we go. We get the same result. Your name is Mark. For right now, remember that for strings that you have to allocate the amount of memory that the string is going to take up. Each individual letter takes up a single char, a single character data space. MARK\0 gives us 5. When we have the user enter the data, we've got to know in advance approximately how long the string is going to be. Now, this is often problematic because we don't always know that. Later on in the course, we'll get into dynamic memory allocation. This way we can allocate memory on the fly. But for right now, either by using a pointer, like I did in the first example, or by allocating a number of chars, we've got to create space for the string before we actually use it. Okay, I just flipped over to a program I created before I started recording, and this program demonstrates the use of a string function, in this case string length, or strlen. And this particular function tells you how long a string is in individual characters. So I've stored 2 string variables using pointers here, first string and second string, and in the first string I stored my first name, and the second string I stored my second name. And then using printf statements and the string length function, I determined how long each individual string was. So let's go ahead and compile and run, and we get the result. The first string is 4 characters long. The second string is 7 characters long. String length returns as if you see a %d signifier, you know it's a double. returns a double, and it simply counts the number of characters in the string, not counting the null or string terminator character. You might have noticed here on line 2, in order to use this, I had to include another header, and that's the string header. There are a number of string functions that can be used in C by importing the string header. Another function you can use if you use the include string.h header is the string concatenation function. So I'm going to add another variable here. That one will be 10. And I'm simply going to put in there the characters LASSOFF, which is my last name. And now, instead of a single string, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the string concatenation function, which is strcat, and I'm going to ask it to concatenate username with, I hate when that blocks when the hints block your text and you can't see, last name. And it's going to combine those into one single string. Let's go ahead and compile and run, and see it concatenated the first string, M-A-R-K, with the last string, L-A-S-S-O-F-F. Note when it concatenates, it doesn't put a space in there, so it just kind of glues the string together. And that completes this lesson on the char data type and strings. In the next lesson, we'll go on to conditionals and loops. I certainly hope to see you there. My name is Mark Lassoff with LearnToProgram.tv.